Hey guys, tonight we're going to drift back down the Nile, not toward the pyramids, not toward the temples you already know, but farther south, beyond the cataracts, into the land of painted toes, sandal queens and gold that glints even under river mud. We're heading into ancient Nubia, a world with its own style, its own magic, and a quiet knack for outliving every pharaoh who ever rolled their eyes at them. You'll start this journey beside the river, where the banks are quiet but the colors are loud. A world where painting your toenails with crushed hematite was not just fashion, it was medicine, ritual, and social signaling, all rolled into one shiny red foot. Just a heads up, if you were dropped into this moment without sunscreen, water, or diplomatic immunity, you probably wouldn't last an hour. The sun here isn't soft, the politics aren't either, and sandals not optional. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're settling in, drop your location and what time it is, where you're listening from. I love seeing where you're tuning in. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You squat barefoot on warm silt at the edge of a winding river that gleams like melted silver under the morning light. The air is thick with the smell of mud, lotus, and something vaguely metallic. Your feet sink a little deeper, and that's fine because someone is about to anoint them. Yes, anoint. She's older with copper rings stacked along her wrists and a shawl the color of tamarind pulp. Her hands are gentle but calloused as she holds your foot with one hand and a shallow stone bowl in the other. Inside there's a paste made from ground red ochre and tree resin mixed with something minty that makes your toes tingle. She dips her fingers into the bowl and begins painting. You don't speak because everyone here understands silence. The sound of the Nile, the brush of wind through papyrus, the low hum of insects, all of it folds around you like a lullaby you don't remember learning. The ochre leaves a deep red sheen across your toenails and the tops of your feet. Not a glossy, modern nail polish kind of red. This is earth red, power red. Red like ceremonial robes and victory banners and the shimmer of dusk on the water. The woman nods as she works, clearly pleased with the consistency. It's not just beauty. This pigment is antimicrobial. It cools the skin. It softens calluses. And just maybe it tells the crocodiles you're not the tastiest thing in the river. Because crocodiles are absolutely here. You glance sideways toward a narrow canoe where a boy dangles his fingers lazily in the water. A crocodile surfaces just the eyes and then vanishes again. The boy doesn't flinch. Neither does the woman painting your toes. Welcome to ancient Nubia. Not quite Egypt. Not quite sub-Saharan Africa, but something fierce and fertile in between. A kingdom of queens and cattle of gold that whispers underfoot, and of warriors who sometimes fought with bows and sometimes just waited until their enemies grew tired of the sun. The woman finishes your feet and rinses her fingers in a bowl of floral water. She smiles, not a toothy grin, just a slow, satisfied upturn of the lips and gestures for you to stand. The soil sticks to the pigment a little as you rise, leaving red footprints behind you like stamps in soft clay. Everywhere you look, now toes glint. A group of girls dances in the shallows, their feet flashing vermilion under the water. A group of older women walk by, balancing baskets of lentils and date palms on their heads, heels dyed black and soles dyed gold. One has blue pigment along her big toe, like a ceremonial exclamation mark. It's not just fashion, it's identification. Tribe status, role, sometimes even mood. Historians still argue whether the practice originated with Nubians or if it was borrowed from Egyptian customs and reinterpreted with local minerals. Some believe it was spiritual, others think it was entirely practical. But all agree on one thing: no one wore bare toes without meaning, even the men. You notice it next, a man approaching with an archer's stance, a bow slung lazily across his back, his feet a soft bronze from copper dust. His ankles are wrapped in dyed linen, his stride confident, unbothered. You wonder what kind of pigment signals that kind of quiet command. He nods at you as he passes, and you catch a glint of green powder tucked into his belt pouch. Verdigris. Not for his toes, this one's for marking arrows. Poisoned tips, maybe, or maybe ceremonial ones. You don't ask. You start walking again. The village is a string of thatched homes and mud brick walls with breezeways shaded by woven reed mats. Cattle wander nearby. Children run barefoot, their laughter trailing behind them like ribbons in the heat. You see someone rubbing a goat's hooves with the same red paste used on human toes. You ask someone why. Everyone walks, she says, even those who carry others. It's hard to argue with that. As the day unfolds, you begin to understand how feet painted, perfumed, protected are not just a body part here. They're a statement. They connect you to land, to ancestry, to ceremony. You step into a shaded hut and find a row of small pots and stones laid out on a mat. A woman sits nearby with a set of carved ivory tools, brushes, spoons, pestles. She dips one into a powder so fine it looks like cinnamon, then sprinkles it onto a shallow dish and mixes it with oil. What color? She asks. You blink. She laughs gently and adds, for your souls. You pick one saffron yellow. It smells like crushed marigold and lemon bark. She begins applying it with a brush made from bundled reeds. It tickles and you laugh despite yourself. Outside, the river gleams again. You step out into the sun with newly painted soles and the heat warms them like polished stones. Each step feels deliberate, loud even in silence. You look down and realize something strange. You've begun walking differently, more carefully, more like the others, because now your feet mean something, and the dust you leave behind is not just dust, it's your mark. You leave red footprints behind you, slowly fading into the earth, but somehow still loud in meaning. The pigment sticks not just to your soles, but to your mood. You don't just walk now, you tread. You place your foot with intention, like you've been taught to say things through the rhythm of your stride. And that's when you see her, the Kandake. Not the queen, exactly a queen. One of several, but still the kind of person you don't stare at unless you've been taught how. She's standing beneath a linen canopy, watching the river like it owes her an apology. Her toes are dyed black, not a casual black, not a been walking in ash all day black. No, this is deliberate, the kind of black that says I have conquered and may do it again if I'm feeling petty. She's tall, broad-shouldered. A long linen robe wraps around her with gold thread seams at the hem. She wears no crown, but her earrings are gold crescents, large enough to catch the sun twice. Her eyes, dark, unreadable, linger on the horizon. Someone whispers beside you, Kandake Amanirenas. The name echoes like a drumbeat through you. She's not alone. Behind her, two young women hold feathered fans, swaying back and forth with ceremonial boredom. One leans slightly too far, and a breeze knocks her fan sideways. The Kandake doesn't flinch. She's watching a boat approach Egyptian-style but Nubian paintwork. A long, narrow hull gliding across the water like a threat wearing perfume. You step aside, everyone does. The boat docks. Men in white kilts disembark, chins, high eyes, scanning feet noticeably bare. They're Egyptians, or at least trying to be. Their leader steps forward and bows. A scroll is offered. A tax is requested. A boundary is suggested. The Kandake does not bow. She takes a step forward, just one, and the black of her painted foot presses into the silt with such finality it should be recorded in ink. The scroll is taken, not read, just crumpled. She nods once, and the Egyptian turns to go red in the ears and sweating under his ceremonial wig. Outlived another one, someone murmurs behind you. Because that's what Kandakes do. Historians still argue whether Nubian queens wielded full military power or if their warrior titles were symbolic. But evidence suggests Amanirenas led troops personally. She blinded a Roman governor in battle. She marched against Augustus himself and returned with bronze statues for melting. You follow as she walks guards peeling off like petals until she reaches a shaded stone courtyard. There on the ground is a map, not painted or carved but poured. It's made of colored sands, gold for rivers, white for roads, red for contested territory. She stands in the center. Her toe nudges the red sand until it scatters. That's diplomacy Nubian style. A scribe nearby scribbles furiously on a papyrus sheet, but the Kandake doesn't look his way. Her attention has shifted to a woman kneeling at the courtyard's edge, painting a small girl's feet with a brush made from reeds. The pigment is deep blue lapis-based, rare, regal. The girl giggles and lifts her foot as the brush tickles. You must walk like a queen, the painter says, even if you're just walking to get lentils. The Kandake smiles just barely and moves on. You follow the scent of jasmine and charcoal through the halls of her residence. Walls are painted with scenes of battles, harvests, rivers full of fish and feet, always feet. Marching, dancing, stomping over serpents. One image shows a Kandake with blackened toes, stepping on the head of a crocodile. Symbolic, yes, but also plausible. Inside her chamber, a bowl of toe pigment sits beside a carved sandal rack. Each pair of sandals is different, some for ceremony, some for battle, some with soles embedded with gold discs that make a faint chime when she walks. Sandals are only removed for gods or sleep, a voice says. You turn. A chamber attendant enters balancing a tray of oils. She begins mixing a new pigment, this one with hints of indigo and clay. For tonight's moonrite, she says. You ask if it's always this elaborate. She laughs, only on days that end. You're not sure what that means, but you nod solemnly anyway. Outside, a crowd has gathered. The Kandake re-emerges. Her hair is wrapped in a blue scarf. Her feet are now painted silver-white, symbolic of the moon. She steps onto a raised platform and raises a staff carved with sun rays. The crowd kneels, even the goats seem to hush. She speaks not loudly, not like a pharaoh, but with the quiet certainty of someone who never asked to be obeyed, only expected it. Her words are lost to the wind, but her gestures remain. 1 foot forward, a pivot, a backward sweep. Each step lands with the weight of legacy. You sit among the onlookers, watching her movements sketch invisible lines into the dust. This is dance, yes, but it's also memory, a kind of walking calligraphy. And as she finishes, the crowd rises. A drummer begins a slow rhythm. Children join in, feet flashing with fresh pigment. Women spin in place, their heels streaking circles in the dust. Someone pulls you gently to your feet. You don't know the steps. But that doesn't matter, because here dance is not perfection, it's participation. So you join. Your silver-painted toes press into the ground. The moonlight gleams off the pigment. And for a moment you're not a visitor. You're not a listener. You're part of the dust that remembers. The moon lingers like a patient witness. Even as the drums fade, even as the dancers fall back into laughter and breathing and spilled water bowls, it remains low-wide and glowing faintly over the rooftops. You sit in the afterglow of movement, your feet silvered and cool ankles dusted with the memory of old footsteps and sandal prints left behind. You're not quite ready to sleep, but the night tugs at your senses, softening them. A voice beside you breaks the quiet. It's the chamber attendant from earlier, the one with the oil and the knowing smile. She gestures for you to follow. The night air smells of sandalwood and earth. Somewhere a hyena howls, but no one flinches. You move beyond the main courtyard, past the polished limestone steps into the hills that shoulder the city's back like quiet sentries. And there, embedded in the earth like forgotten jewelry, is gold. No, really, actual gold. It glints along the rock face, soft veins of it, like butter trapped under stone. A man is crouched nearby, scraping gently with a curved bronze blade. He doesn't look up. "You're late," he says. You're not. But it seems everything here assumes your presence before you earn it. This is Nubia's truth. Beneath the truth, the ground itself hums with wealth. Unlike Egypt, where gold had to be imported or extracted at great risk, Nubia practically sneezed gold dust. The hills around you, Kerma Napata Meroa, aren't just territories, they're treasure. The man scoops a handful of gravel into a sieve made of reeds and twine, shakes it and rinses it with a splash from a gourd. Tiny flecks, yellow stubborn, cling to the fibers. He grins. This, he says, buys nothing. You blink. He explains gold in Nubia wasn't rare. It was respected, yes, but it wasn't sacred. You didn't flash it around to show status. You wove it into the everyday. Anklets, sandal trim, the rims of bowls, the lining of sandals where no one but your own heel would see it. Gold, he says, is privacy. That's not something you've heard before. As the night deepens, you follow him down a narrow path flanked by stones arranged like quiet markers. They shine faintly with mica and soot. At the bottom is a wide open space, a quarry half dug, where torches flicker and shadows dance like gossip on the walls. Women work here too. One hammers rock with something that looks like a pestle. Another scoops sand into a leather sling. They don't stop when you arrive, but their eyes flick toward you with a curiosity so soft it doesn't break the air. A child nearby shows you a nugget no larger than a grape. He's covered in dust, his toes dyed purple. You ask why. Flies don't like it, he says matter-of-factly. And purple is lucky when the moon is full. You remember the silver on your own feet and nod like you've always known that. Historians still argue whether Nubian gold mining was organized by state systems or local families. Some believe laborers were paid in cattle and sorghum. Others suggest it was a communal effort, a sacred act of reclaiming Earth's wealth for everyday beauty. You're starting to believe it's all of the above. By dawn the hills shimmer, not with sunlight, not yet, but with quiet ambition. You follow a woman as she carries a small leather pouch back toward the city. Not heavy, not flashy, just secure. She walks barefoot, the soles of her feet blackened with a mix of soot and gum resin to prevent cuts. Her heels shine gold. You ask if the gold rubs off. She shakes her head. It sinks in. Her house is small but airy. Inside, her daughter is boiling porridge. A cat naps near the hearth. On a woven mat rests a pair of sandals so finely worked they could be mistaken for ceremonial wear. But she slips them on casually like any morning routine. The sandals are dyed deep maroon. The leather is soft broken in, but on closer inspection you notice gold threading along the inner edge of the sole. A hidden halo only revealed when the shoe is removed. You think back to the man who said gold is privacy. It makes sense now. Here wealth isn't about showing, it's about honoring. About embedding beauty where only you and maybe the gods will see it. You help the daughter stir the porridge. She offers you a spoonful. It tastes of honey and toasted grain. She paints her own toes with a dark green powder, quick and practiced. You ask what the color means. New season, she says. Good crops, better breath. You choke slightly on the porridge. She grins. A woman outside calls for her, and she heads out, feet drying in the sun, sandals in hand. She won't wear them until she reaches the shade. You return to the main part of the city. It's busier now. Vendors call out over displays of lentils, wild onions, and fermented fish. A potter spins a bowl using just her foot, and a stone disc toes steady heel painted with blue dots. A man walks by wearing earrings the size of your palm and a tunic stitched with bronze beads. You hear him whisper to a merchant, "This thread was dipped in river gold, from Napata." Your ears perk. Napata. You've heard the name before, but now it echoes louder. The city that was once a kingdom's beating heart, and for a brief gleaming moment ruled all of Egypt from the shadows. You ask for directions, and just like that your feet are moving again across warm stone, over sandy paths, toward a place that glitters not with power, but with memory. As you leave, someone taps your shoulder. "Your heel," she says. You glance down. One silver footprint has smudged. The pigment has begun to fade. You feel a strange flutter in your chest, not panic but something close to nostalgia. Already, even though the journey's still unfurling. The woman smiles. It means you're ready to walk farther. So you do. One step, then another. Through gold-rich soil and painted dust, your toes gleam with stories not yet written. You follow the sun. Not by intention, but because it's what your feet do now that they're painted with confidence and faint traces of river dust. The silver pigment has faded to a kind of ghost shimmer, like the outline of a memory you almost remember having, and it carries you southward along the edge of the Nile toward Napata. You've heard it whispered like a name that shouldn't be said too loudly, not because it's forbidden, but because it's sacred. The kind of place you don't announce, you just show up and hope it lets you in. Along the way, the land gets louder in texture, the hills sharpen, the sun grows less friendly. The river begins to rebel against your expectations, narrowing in places, vanishing behind reeds in others, then returning with a roar you weren't ready for. You pass children balancing pots on their heads, sandals slapping the earth in syncopated rhythm. Their toes are painted yellow turmeric-based, someone says. It's a don't trip on the road spell. Seems to be working. You pass a group of soldiers at rest beneath an acacia tree, their spears stuck upright in the ground like stiff grass. They're fletching arrows. One man's foot is bandaged. The others are painted in pairs, left red, right black. You ask why. Red walks to battle, one mutters. Black walks home. And just like that, you keep walking. Napata appears not with gates or walls, but with shadows, tall ones. Columns rising from the earth like stone reeds, carved with images of bulls, stars, lions, and people dancing in sandals so finely etched they feel like they're still moving. You step into the shade of the temple's entry hall and the temperature drops 10 degrees. The silence here is heavy, but it doesn't smother. It listens. A priest appears. Young, narrow-eyed, calm. His robe is dyed deep indigo, and his feet are bare but glinting with powder mica maybe. You can't tell if he's just walked through crushed crystals, or if he's blessed with some kind of solar foot powder only high priests get to use. He raises an eyebrow when he sees you, visitor or offering. You don't answer, partly because you're not sure, and partly because neither option sounds particularly safe. He smiles faintly. Come, you should see the altar. You follow. The temple is quiet but busy. Shadows move behind columns. Somewhere water trickles through a carved channel in the floor. It smells of incense, old cedar, and something metallic that might be blood or just iron dust from too many years of sacrifice. You arrive at the altar. Not a table, not a pedestal, but a platform the size of a boat carved in concentric ovals like a footprint. At its center a pair of golden sandals. You stare. They're not huge, not flashy, but they glow in a way that doesn't require sunlight. The straps are woven gold wire lined with goat leather. The soles are beaten flat, but every now and then you catch the faint impression of a painted toe long worn into the heel bed. Napata ruled Egypt from here, the priest says. We didn't need thrones. We had these. He leans in. Pharaohs sat. Candaces walked. Historians still debate the extent of Nubian control over Egypt during the 25th dynasty. Some claim the Kushites adopted Egyptian customs wholesale. Others argue they used Egypt like a puppet, all while staying grounded in their southern sensibilities. What's clear, for a time, the throne of the Nile belonged to the south, and they wore sandals while sitting on it. You walk the perimeter of the altar. Every footstep echoes. It's almost musical. You notice indentations in the floor, repetitions of the same shape worn from years of pacing. Like someone walked here over and over again, deciding the fate of kings with every lap. You reach down, press your foot beside one of the faded prints. It fits. Not perfectly, but enough. You feel noticed. The priest watches you. We paint our toes, he says, so the gods know where to look. You glance down again. Your pigment is mostly gone now. Just a halo of shimmer clinging to your nails like a stubborn goodbye. You don't panic. Instead, you ask if they still paint here. He gestures and you follow him into a smaller room behind the altar. There, under flickering lamplight, two women sit cross-legged beside a tray of powders, oils, brushes, and metal stirrers. One is grinding a small block of copper into fine green powder. The other is heating beeswax over a flame. They don't speak as they work. You sit beside them. A shallow bowl is placed before you. A woman dips a thin brush into a mixture and lifts your foot. Her fingers are cool. Her touch is decisive. She paints, not red, not silver, but something pale, warm, faintly golden. Like the early morning sky. The pigment smells faintly of honey and river stones. You feel it soak into your skin. She finishes, nods once, and sets your foot down gently onto a piece of leather to dry. Then the other. No words, just warmth, ceremony through repetition. Outside, the drums begin again. Not festive, rhythmic, focused. The priest leads you back toward the entrance. Napata isn't dead, he says. It just walks slower than the rest of the world. You believe him, because as you step back into the daylight, you notice something. Everyone here walks like their steps matter. And maybe now so do yours. The sky stretches above you like taut linen, washed pale by the sun, stitched with faint threads of cloud. Your newly painted feet feel lighter than they should, as if the pigment itself changed your bones. You walk not quickly. In Napata, no one hurries. Instead, the city moves like honey poured from a high bowl, slow, certain, and deeply intentional. You pass children tracing shapes in the dust with their toes. Their lines cross and spiral, creating sand mandalas that vanish with the breeze. Some of them wear rings on their second toes, copper mostly. One girl has a tiny cowrie shell tied around her ankle with string dyed blue. She sees you watching and sticks out her foot with a grin. Good for balance, she says. And love. Probably. Probably. You keep moving. Every few steps, the architecture changes. Mud brick turns to sandstone thatch, gives way to polished cedar, and all of it is ringed by courtyards. Wide open-air spaces where people sit in circles, mixing powders or polishing bronze mirrors. In one courtyard, a woman balances a shallow mirror on her knees. She catches the sun just so and reflects the light across her face. Not vanity. Practice. She's preparing to apply kohl, the deep black eyeliner made from ground galena, and blessed with a few drops of holy water. She sees you. She waves you closer. You sit, knees folding beneath you, as she dips a thin bronze stick into a bowl of pigment and lines her eyes with impossible steadiness. Kohl here isn't just decoration, it's medicine. It wards off infection, protects from glare, tells you who's married, who's mourning, who's just trying something new on a Wednesday. She offers the stick to you. You hesitate, then accept. The coal is cool, slick. You try your best. You are less steady. But she smiles anyway and offers a bronze mirror to admire your work. You look like someone who tried, which in this moment is enough. Around the courtyard, others are busy preparing their faces and feet. Cosmetics here aren't separate from life. They're woven into it like breath or storytelling. Every pigment has a purpose. Every scent has a reason. You watch as another woman grinds malachite into a deep green cream. She uses a pestle made of bone stained permanently from years of repetition. Another dabs a mixture of frankincense resin and oil behind her ears. The smell is sharp and warm, like a fireplace in a house made of memory. One young man is painting symbols across his knuckles with indigo. You ask why? Because the palms are for the gods, he says, but the knuckles are for reminders. You don't ask what he needs reminding of. He points to your feet. You should visit the bronze woman. She inks toes with meaning. Well, now you're curious. You follow the direction he gestures, a narrow alley between two markets, where baskets of figs sit sweating in the sun. The alley opens into a tiny room, barely larger than a storage shed. Inside, a woman hunched over a low stool surrounded by bowls of ink wire, brushes, tiny knives, and scraps of dyed linen. She looks up. Her hair is wrapped in a pale blue scarf, her eyes clouded, milky with age, but when she smiles you feel seen. You want the story, she says. It's not a question. She doesn't wait for an answer. She pats the stool. You sit. She lifts your right foot gently and examines it like a scroll. She rubs her thumb along your arch. Traveled, still listening. Then the heel, stubborn but softening. Then your toes, too quiet. You don't know whether to feel flattered or exposed. She selects a long reed stylus and dips it into dark blue ink. Indigo with a touch of iron. It smells like rain on old cloth. She begins painting along the side of your foot. Small symbols. A fish, a seed, a spiral, a line of dots that vanish into the curve of your heel. She pauses and adds one last mark, a bird mid-flight. You raise an eyebrow. For luck, she says, or for leaving. She gestures for the other foot. You offer it. This one gets a sun, a waterline, a single eye, and something that looks suspiciously like a sandal. She dabs the ink with a cloth and sets your foot down. Don't wash, she says, not until the stars change. Outside the alley is brighter, or maybe your eyes are. You look down at your feet, adorned now with meaning you didn't choose but somehow understand. You step back into the street. The markets are alive. Figs, dates, linen, bronze pins, smoked fish bowls of salt coal sticks, combs made from ivory and horn. Someone is selling tiny toe rings carved from translucent stone. Another sells fire-charred toothsticks soaked in mint. You pass a woman grinding pigments in a mortar. Her hands are stained red and gold. She's humming. You recognize the tune. It's the same one the children were singing earlier while tracing symbols in the dirt. A rhythm passed from face to foot to finger. You step into a stall filled with mirrors, bronze discs, polished to near perfection, no glass anywhere in sight. You see yourself, slightly warped, definitely smudged. But there, behind you, someone steps forward. She's older, in a loose linen robe dyed clay red. Her feet are bare, her toenails painted with alternating stripes of green and white. "Are you lost?" she asks. You think about it, then shake your head. "Good," she says, "because tonight you walk with us." You don't ask where, you just nod. Because in Nubia, feet don't just carry you, they declare you, and yours are finally beginning to speak. You walk, not because there's a place to be, not exactly, but because tonight everyone seems to be walking. It begins with a low drum beat in the distance, not fast, not even musical, just steady, like a footfall amplified. You step onto the street and feel it through your soles, through the painted symbols the bronze woman inked earlier. Your toes flex instinctively. It's not a parade, not yet, but the air is expectant. You follow the flow of people weaving through narrow streets that breathe with torchlight and the smells of tamarind smoke, roasted grain, and damp stone. The sandals of those ahead flick up soft clouds of dust. You see a variety of feet, bare painted, wrapped in linen, ringed in copper. You're not the only one marked. The crowd gathers in a wide open plaza surrounded by low platforms. Reed mats have been spread across the stone ground, and every corner is lit by oil lamps that cast golden halos on faces, shoulders, and lifted hands. From one of the platforms a woman steps forward. Her tunic is teal, her arms are strong, her voice is stronger. "We walk tonight to remember," she says, "and to forget, whichever you need more." Everyone murmurs agreement, not applause, just a shared breath of assent. This is the sandal night, an old Nubian tradition held under particular moon phases, where people walk together until their thoughts are too tired to argue with them. Some say it's for healing, some for stories. Others say it's simply to wear down the soles of new sandals until they stop squeaking. You believe it's all three. The crowd begins to move like water poured from a high basin. Slowly at first, then with rhythm. Not a march, not a dance, just walking. You fall into step beside a young girl holding her grandmother's hand. Their feet match in design, silver lines running down their arches like the seam of a fruit. Each step they take makes a soft pat against the stone. Ahead of you a man hums, low and steady. Another responds. Soon the hum becomes a song, no lyrics, just vowels stretched out like silk. The sound settles into your rib cage. The woman from the platform walks barefoot at the front. Her feet are entirely blackened with pigment. Each step she takes leaves a clear mark. You try stepping in one of them. Your foot fits almost perfectly. Someone behind you chuckles. "You'll never catch her," they say. "She's walked too many stories ahead." You keep walking anyway. As the procession moves through the city, people emerge from their homes to watch or join. Some offer small bowls of water for rinsing. Others sprinkle petals or palm fronds underfoot. One child places a single fig in the middle of the path. You don't step on it. No one does. As the hours pass, something strange happens. Your sandals stop feeling like shoes. They start feeling like extensions of thought. Every step becomes a sentence. Every heel lift a pause. Every toe press a punctuation mark. You pass under an arched gateway decorated with carvings, birds, cows, stars, and feet. Always feet. In one carving, two painted feet stand atop a symbol of the sun. In another, a pair of sandals hang from a tree branch like an offering. You ask someone about it. It's the story of the man who walked backward out of grief, they say. He left his sandals behind so the gods could find him. You don't know if it's a warning or a blessing. Either way, you keep walking. Eventually, the crowd enters a quieter part of the city. Less stone, more grass. The river isn't far. You can hear frogs and the occasional splash of something brave or foolish in the dark water. People begin to peel off. Some head home. Others sit in small groups. A few lie on their backs, feet up, letting the moonlight bless their souls. You find yourself standing at the edge of the water. A woman nearby removes her sandals, dips them in the shallows, and whispers something you can't hear. You sit. You remove yours. The water is cold. Your toes twitch. You look down and see the ink from earlier, faint now but still clinging. The bird, the seed, the eye. A small boat glides past, carrying someone singing softly. The melody drifts like smoke. You lean back, resting your head on a stone still warm from the day's sun. Someone lies beside you. They don't speak. They just lift their foot toward the sky, letting the pigment catch the moonlight. You do the same. There's something sacred about showing your feet to the stars. You breathe. In, out. Sandal night has worn your body soft and your mind quieter than you've known in years. You close your eyes, and somewhere in the soft dark under the Nubian sky, you begin to dream not of gods or gold, but of footsteps. Yours. Others. All of them blending into a rhythm older than kingdoms. You wake slowly, the kind of slow where your limbs remember the walk before your mind does. Your feet ache in a tender, not unpleasant way, like they earned something. You stretch, arching your back against the stone where you'd fallen asleep beside the river and blink into morning. The world is quieter now. The procession has long ended. The sandals are drying on trees hung like soft fruit. The path you walked last night is faintly marked by pigment footprints and pressed herbs that release their scent only after being crushed by moonlit steps. You sit up. Your sandals are still there, damp at the edges from where they touched the water. You slip them on, wincing slightly, then smiling at the wince. It's a reminder of the weight you left behind. Someone passes you balancing a basket on their head. She walks gracefully despite the obvious burden, smoked fish sorghum flour, something wrapped in waxy leaves. Her feet are clean but faintly tinged with lavender pigment. You follow. The air smells different today, more firewood, less incense. You catch a breeze carrying spice, peppery, sharp, almost citrus. And there it is, a cooking yard. You step into a wide clearing, framed by clay ovens, woven mats and wide bowls sitting on stands. It's already buzzing with activity. Women squat over fires. Children fan coals with palm fronds. Men carry bundles of dried grass, and one teen is chasing a runaway goat that has stolen a fig. You barely avoid colliding with a woman holding a long wooden stirring stick. She eyes you up and down, then gestures to a stack of clay bowls. "You're late," she says. "Stir." And so without hesitation, you do. You kneel beside her. The pot before you is a thick slurry of ground sorghum lentil paste and what smells like roasted garlic. The texture is lively. As you stir, you notice something. Her toes are stained a deep russet. painted but faded likely from heat and repeated splashes of broth. You comment on it. She glances down. Kitchen toes, she says, the only paint that survives fire. You smile, then notice another detail. The back of her ankle is tattooed, not decoratively, but with something practical, 3 tally marks and a small fish. For each pot I've ruined, she says proudly, and one I fished out. Her laughter bubbles up like stew. You're handed a different task, grinding dried beans with a stone roller. The beans are tougher than expected. You throw your weight into it, sweat beading at your temples. Someone hands you a leaf to wipe your forehead. You thank them with a nod. Soon the courtyard fills with layers of smell, fried onions, bubbling greens, something nutty and sweet you can't quite place. Someone nearby is singing a working song in a rhythm made to match the stirring. You find your body swaying to it. A girl near the fire is painting her toes with a brush. She dips into a pot of thick green oil. She lifts one foot and blows on it dramatically. Then notices you watching. Cooking blessings, she says. So I don't burn the bread again. You don't ask if it works. Someone slaps dough onto a flat clay griddle. The air fills with sizzle and smoke. You're offered a pinch of something wrapped in a leaf. It's hot, sweet, crunchy. You ask what it is. Date fritter, they reply, with sesame and crushed fig skin. You nod in admiration, then motion to your now flecked feet. The green oil has spotted them, speckled like freckles. Someone laughs. Now you've got kitchen toes too. As lunch begins, the team gathers under a thatched shade to eat communally. Bowls are passed. Hands reach in without fuss. There's a rhythm to the meal, quiet, grateful, not ceremonial, but meaningful. Someone wipes their painted foot clean with a wet cloth and sets it back down on a folded reed mat. You do the same. You catch a glimpse of someone sitting alone at the far edge of the yard. An older woman, her feet still bare, toes curled into the soil. Her toenails are stained blue. She's chewing slowly, staring off into the trees. You ask someone who she is. They shrug. She doesn't cook anymore. But when she did, the gods would visit her oven. A pause. She says they liked the smoke. And the bread. The girl beside you giggles, whispering, and her feet were always perfect. You glance at your own, smudged, burned in spots, oiled accidentally, perfect in a way you didn't expect. Someone clinks a bowl with their spoon. We thank the fire, and we thank our feet. Everyone touches the ground briefly with their fingers. You do too, because today your feet have earned it. After the meal, you're shown how to make sandal polish, using crushed date pits, oil, and a pinch of sand for grip. It's rubbed into leather until it softens. You try it. The leather in your hands warm, smells like fruit and salt. You feel it relax like it's sighing. The man guiding you watches approvingly. Walk long and polish often, he says. Then he adds more softly, our sandals know our secrets. Best to treat them well. By late afternoon, the yard quiets. Some return to homes. Others curl up in corners to nap. You find yourself washing your hands in a clay basin, watching the water swirl with pigment and spice and soot. You look down. Your feet are a mosaic of the day, ink, oil, soot, flour, and sweat. Not ceremonial, not painted with intention, but storytelling all the same. You realize the kitchen too is a temple, and today your offering was effort. The air smells like palm smoke and night. You've left the warmth of the kitchen fire behind, but it still clings faintly to your skin, smoke, woven into your hair, the scent of roasted grain in the fabric of your tunic. Your feet feel sturdy, seasoned, like they've been seasoned. You walk along a quiet path, flanked by rows of low clay homes. Reeds rustle in the breeze. Somewhere a dog barks once, then falls silent. It's the part of evening where the world inhales before it dreams. You turn a corner and find yourself in a narrow alley lined with stalls. Not for grain, not for cloth. These stalls smell like mystery. Dried herbs hang from woven ropes, bundles of mint riverroot cassia pods leaves that curl like sleeping insects. One stall glows softly with blue oil lamps. Another has bottles filled with red sandfish bones, bits of blackened wax. You pause before a stack of folded parchment tied with hair. This is a market for minds and memories. And at the end of it, a scribal booth. It's low to the ground, shaded by old fabric. A man sits behind a wooden plank desk. His beard is streaked with silver. His fingers are stained with ink, dark blotches under each nail, like he's dipped his thoughts directly into pigment. He gestures for you to sit. You do. He looks at your feet first. Not your face, not your hands, just your feet. He says. You've walked through food and fire. You've turned a corner. You blink. He nods toward a bowl of water beside him where a soft brush rests. He lifts it, dips it into a jar of pale brown ink, and flicks a line across a scrap of parchment. One line, then another, then dots, a curved shape, a small foot. You came for a reading, he says, but your souls are already telling me everything. You don't remember saying anything, but here you are. He leans closer. You've met the cook with the burned toe. You've stood in the footsteps of Napata's altar. You've slept on stone and walked in someone else's rhythm. He smiles. You're not here to be told. You're here to be reminded. He sets the parchment aside and produces a fresh one. From a pouch he draws a brush unlike the others, made from the stiff hairs of an ibex bound tightly with sinew. He grinds a tablet of red ochre and mixes it with cedar oil until it forms a dark ink that smells like forest fire and old libraries. And then, without speaking, he begins to draw on your feet. Symbols again. But these are different. On your left foot, a rectangle with 6 interior marks. A house, he says. Not made of stone, but made of presence. A line beneath it, the path home. 3 dots curving above your toes. The question you're avoiding. You don't ask which one. On your right foot, a spiral, repetition, but upward. A jagged edge, the mistake you already survived. And finally, a single wave, the next one, but softer. He sits back. The ink glistens faintly, drying fast in the warm air. This, he says, will wear off. He taps his temple. This won't. You ask if he paints everyone. He shakes his head. Just the ones who walk with sand in their thoughts and food in their footprints. You thank him and step out of the stall feeling lighter, though no less full. You walk back down the row of stalls, but they're already closing. The woman with the fish bones is gone. The lamp seller is packing away her flames into jars. A child sweeps sand across the path with a bundle of reeds, erasing even the memory of footsteps. You turn down a different path, one that curves like it wasn't meant to be found. It leads to a courtyard with a fire pit, a ring of stones, and oddly a small palm wine stall. The man behind it nods without expression and offers a shallow bowl. You take it. The liquid is sweet but sharp. It stings the tongue and warms the chest. You cough once. He grins. You needed it. He points to a mat beside the fire. You sit. Others join 3, maybe 4. Strangers. One hums softly. One sips her wine and stares into the flame. One is barefoot entirely, her feet painted silver with what looks like crushed mica. She says nothing, but the fire flickers on her toes. The group is silent, not from awkwardness, from agreement. Then the barefoot woman speaks. The oracle's coming. You glance around. A moment later, a girl no older than 15 steps out from behind a curtain of hanging shells. She walks without sound. She wears a tunic dyed river blue and a single copper band around her wrist. Her hair is tied up with thread. Her eyes are too calm for her age. She carries a bowl of water and a string of carved wooden feet. One by one she passes among you, letting the string brush your ankles. When she reaches you, she pauses. Her fingers brush your inked soles. She hums once, tilts her head, then speaks softly. You will walk west, but your answer is east. Then she's gone, just like that. You sit a while longer finishing your wine. Someone beside you mutters, "Mine was worse. She just said, you already know." You smile, because maybe so do you. When the fire dims, you rise. The path back to your resting place is still warm under your soles. The ink hums faintly, like it's remembering something you haven't caught up to yet. The wind stirs, and your feet move with it. You walk without aiming. The kind of walking that's less about destination and more about alignment, letting your souls catch up to your thoughts, or maybe your thoughts finally catching up to your souls. Either way, you drift. The moon is a sliver now. The stars blink lazily, half covered by drifting cloud. You pass reed fences and drying baskets of millet. Someone sings a lullaby behind a curtain, and somewhere a goat sneezes. The city exhales, and you step into the quiet of early morning Nubia. The path grows narrower, the buildings lower. Mud brick yields to sand, then stone. You notice your footprints again, still faintly inked with the oracle's message, the scribe's symbols, the kitchen's soot. They stretch behind you like sentences. Then another path winding upward. It hugs a rocky hill, one of the natural outcrops that rises like a broken tooth above the flat plains of Napata. You follow. Higher and higher the city shrinks behind you. The river splits into curves reflecting stars, and there at the top, just as the first violet streak of sunrise appears, is a structure, half ruin, half resilience. A watchtower, or what's left of one. It stands with its back to the wind, its stones worn smooth by centuries of sand. You approach the arched entrance. There's no door, just shadow, and the scent of age, dry, cracked, sun-bleached memory. Inside it's cooler. The floor is uneven, but one thing catches your eye immediately. Footprints, not drawn, not painted, worn in. Generations of sandaled steps pacing this same circle. Their rhythm is baked into the floor like a whisper from the past. You walk the circle once. Then again, your steps begin to match the groove. You feel them aligning with some long-forgotten patrol, some ancient lookout, a Nubian warrior scanning for threats from the north, or perhaps just watching the clouds. The wind picks up. Historians still argue whether these towers were military outposts or ceremonial markers, whether they were meant to repel invaders or honor ancestors. Some say both. Some say they were never meant to be used at all, just built to remind the land that someone was watching. Either way, you're here now. You climb to the top. The roof, what remains of it, opens to the full sky. From here, the Nile is a slow ribbon, the cities mere dots, and behind you, the desert endless, patient, never blinking. You sit on the edge. Below, the wind whips sand across the rocks like a second river. A caravan passes in the distance, camels' figures wrapped in pale cloth cargo, swaying like secrets. You look down at your feet. The ink is fading, the soot gone. What remains are the bare shapes of your own toes. Lined sun darkened, a little cracked. And still, worthy. You reach into your pouch. You forgot about the tiny cloth sachet the kitchen woman gave you. Inside, a pinch of sandal polish, a pinch of lavender ash, and one tiny shell. You smile. You rub a bit of the mixture between your fingers and press it to your heel. It darkens slightly, gives off the scent of roasted grain and river wind. A grounding smell. Below the tower, you notice something moving. Not fast, not threatening. A group of elders. They walk with staffs, their feet bare, painted in alternating patterns. Each one has a bundle of reeds or a gourd. They don't speak, but they walk with quiet purpose. They gather at the base of the tower. One looks up and sees you, nods. You descend. There's no need for greeting. One of them opens a cloth wrap and removes a small square stone. On it, a carved foot, stylized, ornamental, but clearly Nubian. She places it in the dirt. Another steps forward and places hers beside it. You watch as each elder places a carved footstone, some round, some sharp-edged, some barely etched at all into the earth in a slow, spiraling shape. You understand. This is a path, a map, a story told through where the feet go. The final elder, a tall man with a soft gait and copper rings around his ankles, kneels and traces a line from one stone to the next with his finger. Then he stands, and the group walks the spiral, slowly, reverently. You follow. Your foot lands on each carved piece, balancing between their meanings. It feels like walking someone else's dream. Or maybe they've been walking yours this whole time. At the center of the spiral is a bowl, empty. You look around. The woman from before steps forward. She places a handful of painted toe rings inside, some broken, some whole. Another adds a pinch of sand. Another a folded strip of cloth painted with blue dots. You hesitate. Then from your pouch you remove the little shell. It's nothing. And everything. You place it in the bowl. The wind sighs. The group begins to hum, low, layered. It's not a song, you know, but it feels like a lullaby for the land. You close your eyes. The tower behind you, the spiral below, the desert beyond, and your feet still standing, still telling, still ready for the next path. You descend the hill slowly. Not because the path is hard though it is, but because the air feels heavier now, like it's wrapped around your shoulders, guiding you with the same reverence the elders walk the spiral. Each step presses deeper than the one before. You don't rush. Nubian feet don't rush. They remember. Back in the valley, the sunlight stretches long fingers across the rooftops. The river has returned to its silver-blue self, quiet, reflective. Birds skim the surface like skipping stones. You pause and watch. And then scent. Thick, sweet, spiced. Not food this time, something richer. You follow it past a row of shaded walkways, under woven canopies, and into a small complex of sandstone walls. The doorways are tall but narrow. The light inside is dappled with shadows from baskets hanging above. You hear voices soft rhythmic, like chanting, but not from throats, from hooves. You've found the funeral courtyard. In the center, an ox stands draped in linens dyed pale blue. Around its legs, attendants crouch with brushes and powders, painting each hoof with careful precision. Cobalt blue, traces of white at the tips. The ox doesn't flinch. Its eyes are half-lidded, chewing slowly like it's done this many times before. You inch closer. A woman beside the ox gestures to a stool. You sit. She nods approvingly, then offers you a thin reed dipped in yellow pigment. For your nails, she whispers, for remembering. You paint one toe, just one. It's enough. Across the courtyard, a man sits with beads in his lap, strings of blue-green and amber. He threads them with the calm of someone who's never needed to hurry. One strand for the departed's wrists, one for the ankles, one to tie around the bundle of possessions soon to be placed with the body. You watch as a group enters from a side archway, women in rust-red robes carrying folded cloths. They do not weep. Their feet are painted entirely white, a sign of both closure and clarity. The deceased was someone of standing, you learn, not royalty, but respected. A scholar, a storyteller, a walker. 59 years, someone says, of walking. You step aside as the procession passes. The ox follows behind its painted hooves, glinting with every step. The brush strokes remain crisp even in motion. You wonder how many times this ritual has happened, how many oxen have carried memory in the soles of their feet. A small boy kneels nearby, watching intently. His own feet are unpainted. You crouch beside him. First time you ask. He nods. You offer the yellow pigment. He hesitates, then dips a finger and dabs his pinky toe. It glows faintly in the light. For remembering, you say. The boy smiles, then runs to catch up with the ox. Someone taps your shoulder. You turn to find an older woman holding a shallow dish of ground herbs. She smells of pine resin and something peppery. She holds your gaze for a moment, then gestures downward. Toes, she says simply. You oblige. She sprinkles the herb powder directly onto your feet, an earthy, spicy dust that crackles slightly on contact. For walking through grief, she explains, so it doesn't follow too closely. You nod. It makes sense. The funeral continues. Chants rise. Baskets of figs and honey cakes are offered to the mourners. A young girl places a sandal near the altar, small, worn, the soul cracked but clearly loved. You feel something stir in your chest. Not sadness, not quite. Recognition. Loss here isn't hidden, it walks openly. painted, perfumed, carried on oxen with cobalt hooves. Historians still debate the origins of Nubian funerary practices, whether they drew from Egyptian customs or developed alongside them with parallel meaning. Some claim the painted hooves began as an aesthetic flourish. Others insist it was spiritual, intended to guide the animal and the soul it bore safely into the afterlife. Either way, the result is the same grace in transition. As the procession winds down, people begin to leave offerings. Some place carved tokens, others drop seeds, shells, coins. One man places a small wax figure with one foot raised. You feel your own feet ache again. Not from pain, but from distance. You've walked so far, and yet the road still unfolds before you like a scroll yet to be written on. As you leave the courtyard, a child offers you a lotus pod. Hollow but firm. She says it was the favorite flower of the deceased. You take it, turning it over in your hand. It fits perfectly in your palm, and you know exactly what to do with it. Back near the river, you find a small sandbar sheltered by reeds. The water is shallow here, quiet. You step out of your sandals. Your feet press into the damp sand. One, then the other. You place the lotus pod gently into the water and watch it drift. It doesn't float far, but it turns once, twice, then settles. You sit. Let the sand cool your souls. Let the water rinse the grief dust away. Let the blue of the ox's hooves linger in your mind like a painted lullaby. And you breathe, because some steps are for going forward. Others are for honoring what stays behind. The river softens your souls. You sit just long enough for the last light of day to pour its gold into the water. Ripples kiss your ankles. The lotus pod drifts out of view. Your footprints slowly dissolve. You're not sad. You're not anything really. Just still, until the sound of laughter interrupts the quiet. Not raucous, not mocking, just light, bright, uncontained. You turn and spot a group of children chasing each other across a wide open clearing. They're barefoot, their feet painted wildly stripes, polka dots, spirals, some glowing faintly in twilight. You watch one girl hop along on one leg while another tries to copy her footwork. A boy trips and tumbles into a sand pile, giggling as he holds up his painted toes like trophies. One of them catches your eye. "Come," she shouts, waving. You look like you forgot how to play. You stand and join them. The game makes no sense at first. It's a mix of hopscotch charades and some kind of foot-stamping rhythm you can't follow, but they don't care. They teach you as you go. When you mess up, they cheer louder. They paint your feet again, quick stripes of pink and black, using a paste made from river clay and flower dye. For fast running, one boy explains, smudging a thumbprint on your heel. Soon you're breathless. You collapse onto the sand beside them, chest-heaving, feet tingling. One girl flops beside you and sticks her painted foot into the air. Today, she says proudly, "My feet said I'm fast and a little scary." You ask what yours said. She tilts her head, examining them. Yours said, "I've walked too seriously lately." You laugh. She's not wrong. A woman nearby calls the children to return home. The group scatters, leaving behind dozens of tiny prints, all different, all temporary. You linger, and that's when you see her, a young woman standing just outside the ring of footprints. She's barefoot too, but her feet aren't painted. Instead, they're bandaged in strips of soft linen, soaked through with something that smells like herbs and honey. You approach cautiously. She nods in greeting, then sits on a low bench. A basket rests beside her full of cloth strips, salves, brushes. She's a foot healer. "You've walked far," she says. "Not a question." You nod. She gestures. You sit. She unwraps your foot gently, inspecting it like a map. She hums, once dabs your heel with a salve that smells of pine and smoke. You wince slightly and she smiles. Pain means you left something behind. She brushes the arch of your foot with her knuckle. "Here." That's where guilt hides. Then your toes. "And here." That's where you hold joy. She rewraps your foot in warm linen, then tucks a dried orange blossom into the bandage. "For softness," she says. Your other foot receives the same care. When she's done, your soles feel supported, grounded, almost weightless. "You'll walk again soon," she says, "but not yet." You rest there a while. A breeze carries in the smell of firewood and toasted grain. Somewhere nearby, someone plays a flute, slow and meandering. And then you notice the sandals. Hanging from a wooden rack nearby are at least a dozen pairs, each hand-stitched, each unique. Some are adorned with shells, others with beaded patterns. One pair glitters faintly with embedded mica. She sees you looking. "Made by the silent women," she says. They don't speak, but their souls always fit. You raise an eyebrow. "They make sandals for dream walkers," she adds. "People like you." You glance down at your freshly bandaged feet. You wonder what kind of sandal a dream walker needs. She pulls a pair from the rack, plain looking at first, but when she tilts them, you notice fine lines etched into the leather soles. Circles within circles, like the spiral of your journey echoed in every step. "Try them," she says. You do. They fit as if they remember you. The straps tighten just enough. The soles cushion the places that need it most. You stand. They feel like memory made wearable. You thank her. She nods. "Come again after your next forgetting." You leave the bench lighter. Each step now makes a soft shh in the sand like a whisper. Back on the main road, you pass a group of older men sitting cross-legged, carving thin lines into wood planks. They're making walking sticks, not out of need but tradition. One holds his up, showing the pattern it mimics the cracks in the earth during dry season. "For humility," he explains, "so we remember we're not taller than dust." You walk on. Night has fully arrived now. The stars are more confident, the moon a little less shy. You sit on a low wall, legs dangling, feet swinging gently above the dirt. And there, for the first time all day, you stop thinking about where you're going. You just let your feet dangle. Because they've carried you far. They've worn grief, celebration, ink dust, and joy. They've been painted and bandaged, laughed with and honored. And now they rest, not because they must, but because rest is part of the walk. Morning comes slow and soft like dew on linen, or a whispered name you almost recognize. You stretch beneath the lean shadow of a palm tree, your feet still cradled in the dream walker's sandals. They've warmed to your shape overnight. The leather feels like an extra layer of skin, like your soles remembered how to be held. The city around you is quieter today. Not asleep, just thoughtful. You hear a low humming in the distance. Not music, not quite. A kind of vibrating chant like bees in prayer. You follow the sound curious, letting it guide you past sleeping goats and half-swept courtyards. You reach the source, a pottery yard. There rows of low kilns smoke gently in the morning light. Clay pots sit like patient animals on woven racks, waiting for their turn in the fire. A woman crouches by one of the kilns, her hands streaked with ash and ochre. She's marking each pot with a brush, simple dots near the base, just above where the fire will kiss it most. You watch her for a moment. Then she looks up. "You came for the singing," she says. You tilt your head. She gestures, and you hear it again. The pots. They hum. Not literally, not a song you could hum back. But when they're fired, she explains, they sometimes sing. A sharp hiss, a low drone, a soft chime. Depends on the clay, she says. Depends on the kiln. Depends on the feet that carried the water. She says this without irony. You sit beside her. She hands you a small lump of clay. "Football," she says. "Everyone makes one." You don't ask why. You shape it slowly, letting your thumbs guide it into a shallow curve, pressing your heel into the bottom to leave a personal imprint. She nods, approving. She takes a bit of dye and paints a thin ring around your heel mark. "Seal it," she says, "so it doesn't run away." You smile. You're not sure if she means the bowl or your footprint. The other potters join. One woman with a missing front tooth paints lines around the rim of her bowl to mimic sandal straps. A man with gold pigment on his knuckles molds a dish in the shape of a curled foot. A small girl carries water from the river. Her ankles are ringed in red clay like soft cuffs. She's barefoot, and each step she takes leaves a trail of wet smudges. You can't help but smile. Once your bowl is shaped, you place it on a rack to dry. The woman presses a final dot of red pigment into the center. For heat memory, she says. The fire reads it better that way. Later you watch as bowls are fed into the kiln. The flames lick around them, and sure enough you hear it. A low whoom, a sharp ping, a gentle shh like a sigh. Each bowl sings differently. Yours makes a low sound like a drum muffled under blankets. The potter listens, nods. Yours has been walking in dreams again. She wraps it in cloth and hands it to you. Keep it, eat from it, or bury it, but don't ignore it. You thank her. The sun climbs higher. The kilns die down. Potters nap in the shade, bowls cooling like stories sealed shut. You leave the yard with your wrapped bowl under one arm. Your feet carry you toward the river again, but the path bends, and suddenly you're somewhere new. A dye house. Large tubs filled with liquid in every color of dusk. Indigo, saffron, cinnabar, ash gray. Cloth hangs on lines flapping like banners from a forgotten language. One man is dipping linen strips into a vat of blue-black dye. His arms are stained halfway to the elbow. A woman nearby wrings cloth with her toes. Yes, her toes twisting the fabric around her painted feet before laying it flat to dry. You're drawn in. Someone hands you a strip, a brush, a bowl of pigment that shimmers like beetle shells. "Dye a sandal cloth," she says. Even if you don't wear it, the cloth remembers you. So you do. You paint swirls, dots. You write a single word you never say aloud. The cloth is taken gently dipped, dried folded, slipped into your palm. It smells like sunlight on water. Someone offers you dye for your sandals, just a stripe across the instep. You agree. They dip a reed and paint a diagonal band of copper gold that catches the sun every time you step. Now your footsteps glitter. Not obviously, not loudly, just enough to remind you where you've been. You look around. The dye workers are barefoot, painted, smiling. Their feet, like everything else here, hold memory in their arches. You sit once more. Unwrap the bowl, place it in front of you. Then remove your sandals. Let your toes press into the warm ground and breathe. You've walked across gold dust, grief, laughter, ink and fire. You've eaten, danced, dreamed. And still, your journey hums forward, like a kiln song, like a footprint, like something only your feet will ever fully understand. The dye on your sandals has dried, now brighter in some places, muted in others, like sunlight through smoke. It glints as you walk, a faint echo of copper across stone, like your feet are whispering secrets back to the ground. You tuck the bowl under your arm and move on the cool air from the river, brushing your skin like a blessing. Today the streets of the city are quieter. Not still exactly, but hushed, like everyone woke up knowing this was a listening kind of day. You wander past weavers threading linen with lines of river blue and dust red. Past a boy selling ink cakes pressed with foot-shaped seals. Past a shrine with no walls, just 4 stones and a sandal resting on a pedestal. You pause there. The sandal is old, cracked, the leather worn almost transparent, where the heel once pressed down again and again. Around it are offerings, beads, feathers, flat stones, even a heel print etched into clay. You ask someone nearby what it means. They shrug. She walked far, they say. That's all. And it's enough. You continue down a path carved between tall stone walls where the sun only barely fits. The walls are etched with foot symbols, some stylized, some literal. Sandals in profile, bare footprints, toes curled or outstretched. And in the corner of one wall, something different. A wheel. You blink. Closer now you see it's not a wheel. It's a foot encircled by rings. A symbol of endless return, of cycles, of coming back to the beginning changed. You smile. The path opens again into sunlight, and you arrive at a place alive with motion, a courtyard filled with sandals. Not people, just sandals, hundreds of them, laid out on mats, hung from lines, balanced on poles, sandals of every shape and style, some decorated, others plain, a few tied in bundles, a few with notes attached, scrawled in ink or scratched into leather. This is the sandal garden. You step in carefully, unsure where to walk. Someone waves you over, a man perhaps 50 with a bald head and wide shoulders. His feet are unpainted but scarred, each mark a story. He motions for you to sit. You're wondering, he says. We all do the first time. He explains. This is where sandals come when their walkers no longer need them. Not necessarily because they've passed, but because their journey has shifted into water, into quiet, into a place where feet aren't needed anymore. Some sandals arrive with ceremonies. Others just appear. You pick one pair up, a child's size, tiny, decorated with faded orange pigment and bead fringe. Inside, etched into the heel, is a single glyph, a spiral. Walked in joy, the man says, glancing over. You pick up another. This one is split at the toe wide and worn with a palm leaf tucked into the strap. Last known pair of a singer, he says. She walked barefoot for years, but kept these just for ceremony. He hands you a bowl of pigment. If you'd like to leave a pair, paint them first. You glance down at your feet. They don't want to leave your sandals just yet. You're not ready, and that's fine too. The man nods as if reading your thoughts. Then walk with them a while longer, he says, but paint something for them anyway, so when the time comes they already know. You kneel beside an empty mat and begin painting a pattern on a blank piece of leather, a circle for the bowl, a wave for the river, a small dot for the shell. Symbols only you could read. When you finish, you press your foot against the design to mark it. A soft print, a promise. The man takes the painted leather and hangs it beside a pair of sandals tied with blue thread. Now your path is stored, he says. You'll know where to come back to. You leave the garden with a strange ache, gentle, almost sweet. Like leaving behind a song before the final note. The street is lined with sandal vendors today. Not just sellers, craftspeople, apprentices, innovators. One woman demonstrates a new heel wrap made of split reed and beeswax meant for walking on hot rock. Another showcases dyed soles that leave behind a temporary footprint in the color of your choice. You try one, it leaves a light red mark that fades after a few minutes. Perfect for when you want to be seen and forgotten, she says with a wink. You buy a vial of scent oil that blends cinnamon with crushed papyrus. You rub a drop into the straps of your sandals and immediately smell like someone who has a secret worth telling but won't. As you walk, the world feels lighter, not because it's changed, but because you have. You step onto a patch of smooth stone and see your reflection, faint, distorted, but there. Your feet carry the story now, in pigment, in muscle, in posture. You remember how they once hurt with every step, how they trembled beside funeral fires, how they danced under the moon, how they pressed into spirals of carved stone. And now they just walk, not out of need, out of knowing. You pass a child drawing on the ground with a stick. She's sketching sandals. One pair is huge, one has wings, one is shaped like a boat. You kneel beside her and ask what they're for. She shrugs. One is for walking home. She grins. But the boat one is just in case. You wake before dawn, not because anything startles you, but because the quiet is different now. Not silence, anticipation. You sit up, the dream walker's sandals still beside you, the soft scent of papyrus oil rising faintly from the straps. You slip them on without thinking. It's still dark, but the sky has begun to breathe light into itself. Someone passes you holding a small bell on a leather string. They nod. You follow. Others emerge from doorways, courtyards, shaded corners, all barefoot or sandaled, all quiet, all walking in the same direction. There's no announcement, no chant, just a shared pace. A procession, but not for grief, not for celebration either. This is the dawn walk. You've heard of it in whispers, a ritual not held on any calendar, but called by the land itself when the wind changes or the stars hang a certain way. When it's time to walk in the hush between night and morning, you walk down to the river. The Nile is almost invisible in the low light, just a suggestion of water, a presence. The group forms a line along the bank. Then a woman steps forward. You recognize her, one of the sandal artists from yesterday. She raises a hand. Everyone kneels. You do too. She presses one foot into the sand, then the other, then steps back, leaving behind a perfect set of prints. The rest follow. One by one, each person steps into the wet earth, leaving behind their shape. A map of mourning, a ritual of presence. When it's your turn, you step forward. Your left foot sinks first, quiet, intentional. Then your right. The sand is cool, the water kisses the edges. You step back and watch as the woman sprinkles fine blue powder across the line of prints. It glitters briefly, then fades. A man steps forward now. He carries a bowl. He dips a branch into it and sprinkles each pair of prints with water from the river. Seal what you are now, he says. Not loud, not formal, just true. Historians still debate whether this ritual existed, whether it's been reconstructed from fragments or reimagined from similar ceremonies in Kerma and Meroe. Some say it's metaphor, others memory, but for you it is real. You stand with the others as the sun breaks the horizon. The river glows copper, the sand dries quickly, the prints begin to blur, and that is part of it too. You walk away with the others back through the soft waking of the city. Vendors begin setting up. The smell of lentils and fig jam returns to the air. Chickens begin their slow rebellion. But you and those who walked move through it like people returning from a dream. You reach the edge of the city where stone roads give way to packed earth paths winding into tall grasses. And there you pause, because ahead lies something you've only heard about in scraps. The echo chamber, not a room, not a building, a circle of carved rock formations nestled in a shallow valley where sound bends in strange ways. You walk toward it. Inside, the air feels different, still, expectant. A single stone stands at the center, with faded toe prints etched into its surface. You press your foot next to one of them. It fits, not exactly but closely enough. You speak aloud, not loudly, not whispering. Your own name. The sound doesn't bounce. It doesn't echo. It returns. Like a friend you thought had left. Like a thought you hadn't had yet. You try something else. A single word, any word. Gratitude. The chamber answers with the faintest echo, not identical but similar. The shape of what you meant, not what you said. You stay there a long time, letting the silence teach you its language. Then slowly you leave the chamber and head back to the city. You return to the shrine from days ago, the one with the sandal on the pedestal. This time you bring something. From your pouch you take the cloth you painted back in the sandal garden, the one with your symbols, your mark, your path. You fold it and place it gently beside the old sandal. A woman nearby watches. She nods once, then looks at your feet. You'll leave again, she says. But when you do, your souls will remember. That evening, you sit by the fire in a quiet courtyard. Someone plays a low, slow melody on a flute. Another roasts kernels of millet, stirring them in a clay bowl. The scent drifts like lullaby smoke. A girl walks past carrying her sandals in one hand. She's painted each toe a different color. Travel toes, she says proudly. For when I don't know where I'm going but want to enjoy getting there. You think about that for a while. The stars blink overhead. The sandals beside you are worn now. Not worn out, just lived in. You remove them slowly. Rest your feet on cool earth. And you listen. To the fire, to the river, to your own breath. To your soul's humming a song that didn't exist before this journey. One more day remains. But for now, you rest, because the feet remember. And tomorrow they will carry you again. You rise with the weight of goodbye in your breath. Not a heavy kind, not the kind that drags, but the kind that leans in, slowly folds around your shoulders like a shawl and waits to be acknowledged. The sky above you is cloudless, pale and quiet, the color of polished stone, the color of last pages. Today is your final walk. You slide into your sandals for the last time. They feel soft, obedient, familiar in the way only things worn over stories can be. The copper stripe still gleams faintly across the top, and your heel has pressed a permanent impression into the soul. You walk through the city in silence. Not out of ritual now, just presence. A few recognize you and nod. Some smile. One man presses a pinch of dye into your hand without stopping. So your toes don't forget you, he says. You pass through neighborhoods you haven't visited in days. The incense market, the gourd yard, a palm grove where someone's goat has figured out how to climb. You pause at the courtyard shrine, the one with the old sandal. It's gone. In its place, your folded cloth now weathered beside another pair of sandals that look recently placed. No one is around, no ceremony. Just offerings passing hands in the way of quiet cities gently and without explanation. You smile, then keep walking. You cross the river, not by boat, but on the long, low bridge made from palm trunks lashed with rope, where your reflection shimmers and breaks beneath each footstep. Children play in the shallows below, and your shadow joins theirs in the water like a fleeting painting. On the other side, fields, open land. The earth becomes softer, your footsteps quieter. A young man waits by a circle of stones. Are you ready to leave, he asks. You hesitate, then nod. He hands you a scroll, not sealed, not written on. Just blank. For the map you'll make next, he says. No need to draw it now. He kneels and brushes your sandals clean with a reed broom. Go barefoot, he says, so the land feels you go. You nod. You remove your sandals. Hold them, don't carry them, just hold them. The sun is warm on your back. You step forward barefoot now. The dirt welcomes you, not hot, not cold, just right. Your painted toes leave gentle impressions behind you. Your soles breathe. Each step speaks. You walk past a grove where an old woman paints rocks with crushed flowers. She doesn't look up. You leave a shell by her side anyway. You walk through a shadow where two birds argue in a fig tree. You pass a circle of dancers too busy stomping joy into the ground to notice you, and then you stop. There is no border, no gate, just the feeling that you have arrived at the end of the road that remembers. You turn. Look back at your footprints. Each one says something. Some are clear, some already fading, all of them yours. You remove the dye pouch from your pocket and kneel. With your finger you draw one final symbol in the dirt between your feet. A spiral. Not the beginning, not the end, just movement. You press your palm over it, hold, then rise. The wind shifts. It's time. You place the sandals on a nearby stone. You don't need them for this part. They've done their part. And as you walk, the earth cools beneath your steps. The wind hums. The birds soften. And your feet know the way. So now you sit once more, not in a courtyard, not by the river, but wherever you are, in your bed, on your couch, under a blanket, or beside a dim lamp, listening to your breath and the echo of Nubia still humming in your bones. The story has ended, but the footsteps linger. Maybe you feel it now, that tingling in your toes. The rhythm of the walk, the way one step always leads to another, even when you don't know exactly where you're going. That's the gift of the Nubians. They didn't just build temples or lead armies or paint their feet because it looked nice. They honored the journey. They gave meaning to the souls. They remembered that every place you've ever walked leaves a little on you, and you leave a little on it. So as you drift into sleep, remember this: your walk doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours. Let your feet be soft. Let your heart be lighter. Let the sand in your mind settle. And tomorrow, when the world wakes and asks who you are, just let your toes remember. They always do.